We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Hopefully, your day is going well. This is coming to you on Monday, but I recorded it on Saturday night. As you know, I've headed down to Savannah. I am in Savannah now as you're listening to this. Um, and we had a lot of emails we had to catch up on. So I thought I'd take Saturday night, catch up on the emails, run it Sunday night into Monday, and then we do another one, I think, with Eric for Tuesday. So just try to stay with me here. I'm trying to stay on top of it. I like to give myself at least one extra day when I get to Savannah so I can kind of settle in. But as I said, this one is going to be all emails. So it's going to be an easy one to do. We've got a lot to get to. So let's not fuck around. Let's get to it. Hello, Boomer and Boomer Brigade. It's Sunday, the 29th of September. And I just got done listening to the podcast and your response to my email about my take on the appeals on Donald's fraud trial and the 450 million. The only thing you said I took umbrage on was we don't agree on most things. Actually, I do agree with you the vast majority of the time, but I believe in being careful and we should temper the optimism with a reality check once in a while. I'm a bit fatalistic. I've seen some things in my 72 years. My cynical attitude and negativity of late is coming from the fear that this country is really losing its fucking mind. That's it showing signs of coming unglued. There is something definitely wrong with society that would allow a Trump and idiots like Higgins to govern things and let things get this bad. Imagine a presidential candidate selling watches, taking bribes, inciting violence, being allowed to walk the streets, let alone run for the highest office. Something is very wrong here. Now, the other night, Vance was interviewed by this phony, dangerous evangelical asshole, Reverend Lance Wallnau. Wallnau claims he's a prophet and has a growing cult. He suggested women are involved in witchcraft. He said that Kamala Harris is the spirit of Jezebel and was sent here by Satan to destroy Trump, and she is using witchcraft to destroy him. This, in the 21st century America, is a big following, the beyond crazy and dangerous. What is this shit stain capable of, and what is he planning? He actually plans to campaign with Vance. This is where my fatalism is coming from. What's happening to this country? Why is this tolerated? What could this lead to? I hope you do a job on this guy, Wallnau. We all need to be aware. Witchcraft. In closing, you had a gentleman email you asking the question, how did MAGA happen? Trump and MAGA came into being one reason, race. The number one reason he was elected and why MAGA exists is to preserve the myth that the white Caucasian is the master race of all ordained by God. It is documented, and we see it in the attack now on all immigrants. The white majority is shrinking. They're steadily losing dominance, and they will not tolerate it. I suggest you read the book, The Imperial Cruise by James Bradley, a while back. Chapter 2 will make what I said clear. I know Harris and Walz are going to win substantially. Even the pundits are picking up on your points. My concern is what happens after. The amount of ignorance and stupidity out there is staggering. Here we are in the 21st century America, with 30% of the population living in the 19th century or on purpose. We have a lot to do here, as you say. Vote blue. Thanks, Mike. Z-Man. Well, Z-Man, yeah, maybe we do agree on a lot of things. You tend to push back now and again, and don't get me wrong, I love that. I have no problem with people pushing back. Everybody has a right to an opinion. The only time I have a problem with an opinion is when it's a MAGA fuck and they come up with something that's a lie or stupid or disingenuous, and that's certainly not the case with the Z-Man. Z-Man, over the 72 years you've been alive, you've also gone through some times that are pretty treacherous, the 60s and that. And there was a time in any of those occasions where we thought all was lost, but somehow we always come out the other side. You seem to be surprised that there are 25, 30% of the people that are racist and are problematic with the MAGA group. I suggest there is no more than there ever was. There was always this number of people. It's just that Donald Trump made it okay to step out and speak in public. we're always going to have that amount of people who think that way. It's just a matter of if they feel emboldened enough to come out and say it. For many years prior to Trump, they didn't feel the courage to do that. They've always been there. They will always be there. And it's just a matter of we've got to tamp them down, shut them up, and send them back under their rocks. All right, next up, this one comes from Tanya. Boomer, quick question. How much money would one need to have for a Trump presidency to be advantageous? I see Trump signs and bumper stickers, and I want to leave a note on the car in the mailbox asking, are you absolutely rich? Does he hate all the same people as you? Are you just a fucking idiot? I can see no reason for anyone to support this national embarrassment. Tanya from Ohio. P.S. If anyone in Ohio vote yes on issue 1 for fair maps and an end to gerrymandering, I haven't seen the wording on the ballot yet, but I'm certain it will be confusing. Tanya, how much money do you have to want Donald Trump in? I don't understand that. I mean, the stock market, where most rich people's money is breaking records. That wasn't the case with Donald Trump. You would think that would have some impetus into who the rich people would vote for, but that's not the case. I think it's more than money. I think it is about the culture. I think it is about race. I think it is about anti-Semitism. I think it's about misogyny, and I think it's about power. See, Donald Trump really can't do anything. Donald Trump is a weak man. What these wealthy people like an Elon Musk or some of these other corporate people see, they see a puppet that they can easily manipulate to get him to do whatever they want him to do. And they're right. It's not about how much money do you make. It's about what kind of power can they grab. And with Donald Trump, anybody can grab power if you just tell Donnie he's a great guy. That's the problem. All right. I think I got another one here from Tanya. Boomer, assuming Harris Walls wins, how long will it be before we can relax about an assured victory? Will it not be until the day after January 6th? I remember Biden's win in 2020, not feeling satisfied. It was like winning, then getting punched in the face repeatedly. I swear to God, Trump takes the joy from everything, and I cannot wait for him to be a bad memory. Will we ever return to a two-party system that can compromise and work for the interest of American people? I didn't pay attention to politics at all before 2016, and now I'm burnt out, a burnt-out shell of a political observer. I know things will realistically never be perfect, but do you think we'll ever approach normal again? Thank you for being the voice of reason, Tanya from Cleveland. I think this one is going to wrap up quicker. I think this is going to be a big win for Kamala Harris, and it's going to be hard to argue the point. That's not to say that Donald Trump will not argue the point, but he'll be kind of a weak voice in the wind. Everybody's going to be pulling away from him because they see how just big a loser they are. Now, you ask, when is it going to be normal again? My question is, when has it ever been normal? If you talk about normal being prior to 2015, I don't think that was so great either. The good news and the bad news is it will be better, but it won't ever be back to what we were prior to 2015 because we've seen everything. We know things that we didn't know in 2015, not only about Donald Trump, but about our government, about our Supreme Court. I will tell you this. We will come out of this. We'll do a little digging after the election. We'll have to get things settled down. But once they do, things will be better. And I think they'll be better ultimately than what we had prior to 2015, mainly because, like they say, sunlight is the best disinfectant. A lot of this stuff that was going on that we now know about were because of Donald Trump, but a lot of it was happening for decades and decades. It all flew under the radar. But Donald Trump blew it up, and now we can see it all. We're going to have to hold people accountable. And for once, people are going to have some accountability and some checks and balances. So I think right after the election, there'll be a relief. I think there'll be some settling down after the inauguration. Donald Trump will still be screaming and crying, but he won't have any support, so it won't matter anymore. Donald Trump will have his legal problems, and Donald Trump will ultimately fade away, either go to jail or keel over or whatever the fuck's going to happen to him. It's going to get better. And I'll tell you this, it will be better than what we had in 2015. It won't be the same. It won't be normal like we ever knew normal to be, but it will be better because of all that's happened. These 8 years, while they've been painful, they won't be for naught. When you go through this kind of shit and you come out the other side, things tend to get better because we know what the problem is and we can attend to fixing them. And we're going to expect the Democrats and Kamala Harris to do that. That's why we need to keep talking the way we're talking and keep pushing and holding them accountable to the bullshit that was going on and to the promises they made. All right. Good evening, Mike. I'm wondering if anyone in the thousands of people who follow you and listen to your podcast and watch your TikToks are well enough versed in understanding body language that they could decipher what's going on with the way Trump moves when he speaks, the way he turns his body and cocks his head. There are a lot of awkward looking sudden movements that he makes with his head, and what the fuck is with the hand movements? I think there could be something to learn from that. He sounds like a deranged sixth grader, like the kid you remember from grade school that would point at somebody on the playground and yell, "Hey, she's stupid." He provides no evidence to back up all of his claims. He has no policy proposals. He's using the old playbook of trying to get white people afraid and claiming to be the woman's protectors. That just makes my blood boil. There was a post I saw on Facebook about a news outlet that went to one of his rallies in Michigan just a few days ago, and they said the people at the rally, his fans, were drunk and high. They stated that one of the crew was grabbed at a rally by a goer and tried to kiss her forcibly, at which point they left. They decided it wasn't worth risking bodily injury. Nobody reports on that stuff. I think if that's what's to be expected, Trump rally people should know. I think they should know what is going on and what his faithful followers are really like. Mike, thank you again for all you do, helping us get through the craziness. Judy, crazy cat lady, now part-time Boston Terrier babysitter from Portland, Oregon. Well, thank you, Judy. I appreciate that. I think in terms of body language, people are under the mistaken notion, I think, that Donald Trump has strategies, has plans. He does things for a purpose, and he doesn't. So I've told you before, Donald Trump is a very emotionally broken person. He just reacts. And when he reacts, he says whatever comes in his head. He does whatever he has to do. And right now he's kind of flailing. So he's really working hard to try to convince people of his lies. And it's not working, and that's confusing him. I think what can best be said about Donald Trump, the way he speaks, the way he moves, is a couple of things. I don't think he's well, either mentally or physically. I think he's in a troubled state right now, and I don't know how much longer he can handle that. Secondly, he's terrified, so he's just reacting. There is no rhyme or reason to what he does. It's all fucking just craziness because he's scared to death. So I wouldn't try to read into it too much. I mean, we know who the fucker is. We knew who that piece of shit is. So the body movements, they almost seem to be involuntary because he is flailing and he is desperate. All right, the next one. Hey, Boomer. I used to be a faithful Morning Joe fan, but I stumbled upon Midas Network and realized I was being shielded from a lot of info. I think they've done a great job exposing real politics, but you have taken it one further. You give good, positive, factual info, and I don't have to hear clips of the incessant diarrhea that constantly pours out of DJT's mouth. MTN uses a lot of clips so we can hear the crap he spews, but his voice and comments are so nauseating that I can't stomach the clips anymore. I'm a blue dot in a rural red county, but I'm right outside of very blue Charlottesville, Virginia. I love the commentary. Your guests are informative and enlightening, and I make a point to listen every day. I'm a home health PT, so I drive a lot and listen to podcasts all day long. Thanks for the great work you do. Looking forward to watching Walls plow JD Dunce into the ground tomorrow night. Now, this, of course, was before the debate, and that's Debbie. And I appreciate that, Debbie. Yeah, I have trouble watching any of the mainstream media anymore. I'd watch MSNBC from time to time. Never been a huge fan of Morning Joe. I think Joe needs to learn to shut up once in a while. He likes to walk over people's other comments, including his wife's. It's just tiresome. I'm getting very bored with all of mainstream media. I'm like you, I tend to go to the Midas touches or some of the people online, people that don't have big money folks to answer to. I think we get better information from there. And I think after the election, that's one thing we're going to see. We are going to see a shift in viewership. Uh, Once we listen to these people constantly tell us that we've got a, a close race here, and then when they find out it's otherwise, it's going to be a lot of questions from people who have been watching, and then the opposite happens. All right, moving on to the next one. This one comes from Keith. He says, we need to write and codify national anti Trump laws. The guy has been working overtime showing us how to break democracy. He's shown us all how bad actors can usurp power and play with the justice system while breaking established American laws daily in a quest for a minority takeover. And we need to protect and serve the United States with federal laws with teeth. Jesus, it's like we handed John Gotti and his lieutenants the keys to immunity. All he has to do is run for president, and his troubles are over. Let's make it impossible to use the authoritarian trick again. Thanks, Keith. 69-year-old white guy who's thrilled to vote blue up and down the ballot. And Keith, I've said that too. The one thing we've come to realize since Donald Trump has come on the political scene is that our judicial system has no teeth. Our Congress has no teeth. They send out subpoenas. And think about this, back before 2015, if you heard somebody say, I just got a congressional subpoena, it wouldn't be up for debate as to whether or not you could go or have to go. That was the case since Donald Trump's been president. And the fact that the judicial system, who is, obviously directed by Merrick Garland, is a problem. There are a lot of things that they should have attacked and just never did. So I agree with you completely. We've got some problems with our government and with the judicial system, and it's something we need to attend to right away. Um, because now that it's been exposed that you can get away with this shit, trust there's going to be somebody else that wants to do the same thing. It's not going to be Kamala Harris, but whoever the next guy or gal is. When things start to get a little sketchy, they do what they want to do. You got the immunity thing, you got all this other shit. We've got to clarify and, like you say, codify some of these things so this never happens again. We've gone through a lot of shit over the last 8 years. We can't afford to go through it again. So, good point. All right, the next one says, I recently became a listener of your podcast on iHeartRadio and want to share some thoughts as a Gen X lifelong Republican who is shifting politically this election cycle. I've been a registered Republican since my college days, with my first vote again going to Bush Sr. I've always considered myself a social liberal and fiscal conservative, although I've often leaned independent. I consistently vote Republican in the presidential elections until 2020. Then I voted for Biden while still supporting GOP candidates down the ticket. However, in this election, I'll be voting entirely Democratic. I don't think I'm an exception. I feel many GOP voters, especially women, can relate. Here are a few reasons behind my decision. Reproductive rights. I've always been pro-choice, but never prioritized it in my voting decisions because I didn't think Roe v. Wade would be overturned. I was wrong, and now this issue is a non-negotiable for me. I will never vote for a pro-life candidate again, regardless of whether the law is codified in the future. Economic policy and gender equality. As a young voter, I believed in Reagan's trickle down in economics, and after college, I pursued a career in financial markets, a very male dominated and pro Republican industry. Over time, I experienced firsthand the bias and harassment women face in these environments. Today, it feels like many Republican leaders still operate in that outdated mindset, and I refuse to support them any longer. Montana's decline. I'm a third generation Montanan, And what the GOP has done to my home state is heartbreaking. From privatizing public lands to corporate tax breaks that hurt local communities, they've made the state unaffordable for natives like me who hope to retire there. The rise in property taxes and unchecked development by hedge funds are making it impossible for locals to thrive. I can't forgive the GOP for this and will be supporting John Tester for Senate with my full effort. Number 4, the influence of Trump. I'm angry that young voters have only known a political landscape shaped by Trump's lies and hatred. It has normalized a type of politics that disregards truth and collaboration. I hope that once Trump and MAGA are behind us, younger generations will see the importance of our policy over personality. 5, core GOP values. The GOP stance on defunding the Department of Education, eliminating Obamacare, supporting Trump, and fostering deep-rooted racism has driven me away. I no longer reflect any of my values, and I believe it's crucial to defeat MAGA at every level in this election. Although I'm registered as a Republican, I will be voting all blue in hopes of sending the message to the GOP, something I can do in California. After the election, I'll be changing my party affiliation. Thank you for providing a platform where these thoughts can be expressed. It's greatly appreciated, especially by those of us surrounded by MAGA. Bev. Well, Bev, I will tell you this. I understand why you're not going to vote Republican, and it only makes sense because, frankly, Bev, based on what MAGA has done, the Republican Party as you once knew it doesn't exist. There is no more Republican Party. It's all MAGA. It's all Donald Trump. Even those people that say, well, I don't really cotton to Donald Trump, but you're a Republican and you continue to support the bullshit that's going on. You vote Republican in spite of the crazy bullshit that they do. So I think you're making the right choice, whether you were going to vote Democrat or not. If you're a Republican, how can you vote for Donald Trump? He's not a Republican. He's not a conservative. It's all about MAGA, and MAGA is about hate, fear, and destroying this country. So thank you for that, Bev. All right, the next one says, I'm a fiscally conservative, the retired banker in me, socially liberal voter. Don't think government has the right to be involved in anyone's, women or otherwise, medical care. I do not agree in principle with abortions, but I shall never need to make that decision, and my personal feelings only to come onto play in my personal decisions. I have no right to make that decision for a woman. Basically, I have no skin in the game. I do not want the government involved in my treatment for my health conditions and thus infusing a theological perspective that is not the United States. I've compared the stated fiscal policies of both candidates. Trump has put forth an irrational plan. Oh my God, tariffs are a tool to be selectively used, not a silver bullet for cure all woes in the economy. Highly regarded economists are very clear such a move would be a disaster and lead to tax on all, and impact the hardest those whom can least afford it. This is insane. John Deere, really? Insanity. No tax on tips with no guardrails for abuse for those who will reclassify compensation as tips to avoid paying taxes. Come on, another give me for his 1 to 10%. Tax cuts for corporations, yeah, it never trickles down. I wish I could go to a system like Germany where the highest paid company cannot exceed a multiple of the lowest paid. This is not socialism, it's a wage equality. Drill, baby, drill. We already are doing so at record levels. There needs to be a balance on alternative energy and research. Now, he does not want tax overtime. Well, that's easy because in Project 2025, Heritage Foundation wants to eliminate overtime. It's funny, when he was trying to pitch that in a recent campaign rally, he was saying, I won't tax overtime. He said, I shouldn't say this, but I hated overtime. Whenever we had somebody who needed overtime, we said, just hire 10 more people so we don't have to pay time and a half. How he thinks that's helping him when he's pitching this as a policy, it makes no sense. He's that stupid. All right, six, Trump is attempting to distance himself from Project 2025, but he embraces much of what they have proposed. This will basically take the USA back to a business and regulatory environment pre-woman suffrage, i.e., the Gilded Age, with robber barons owning 80% of the wealth and assets in the country. They do not want to share, and somehow they keep missing that a robust middle class fuels an expanding economy. Geez, basic. But they are blinded by their ideological or theological beliefs. I'm not going to say Christian because I do not view these extremists as Christian. They claim to be Christian. They hide behind the Christianity, but what they do and the way they behave has nothing to do with Christianity. Now, Harris has put forth a plan: build the middle class and promote small business startups through tax incentives, child care and welfare tax credits, and programs that allow parents to work and contribute while assisting to the care of their children and the next generation. Oh my God, how forward thinking. Reform the corporate tax to be more representative. These corporations all fail to acknowledge that they would not be in business were it not for the investments of our forefathers in the infrastructure and system underpinning their business. Tax should be fair, not punitive. Expand healthcare through a free market process initiated. I know many Republicans who are on the ACA and appreciate it and enjoy it. I now ask, well, if Trump is elected, what do you think this concept of a plan as a search for health care that allows pre-existing conditions? We know that when Donald Trump came into office, he said he had a plan. It was better, cheaper, and more inclusive. It's 9 years later, and we have yet to see it. So that tells you a little something about what Donald Trump's got in store. Regarding immigration, both parties have blown it. Failure to act. Harris at least indicated that she will support the bipartisan bill, which Trump's minions torpedo. If Trump is allowed to enact this stated immigration policy, the U.S. will never recover. This will be a scar on our history. Mass deportations of undocumented immigrants and documented legal immigrants by Trump's echo the fascist of the past he so idealizes. Legal enforced immigration in compliance with the law is a good start. Not the solution, but a start. Seeing as both parties are starting at zero, I would bet on Harris' plan being the most sustainable and effective in the long run. I also get irritated when people say Harris had 3.5 years to do something and she did not. Well, first, the vice president is empowered to do these things only, and they are succeed the president should he or she die or become incapacitated, act as president of the Senate and break ties and votes. Everything else the VP must do with the consent and direction of the president. Harris was never the border czar. That responsibility rests with the head of the Homeland Security and is driven by the current inadequate laws. She was sent to work with Central American governments and try to work on the source of the problems. But details and accuracy never make it into Trump's diatribes. Maddening. Now, the best analogy I've seen for undecided voters are: you are on a plane. The flight attendant is asking the passenger, the voter, from the cart, would you like chicken or bullshit with ground glass topped with and laced with X-Lax? Is there really a choice? Most have decided, I just wish we could get the election done. We need to move on. I can't wait for Trump to be so far in our rearview mirror. He is but a bad memory everyone wants to expunge. Cranky boomer in Coral Gables. Absolutely. I agree with you. And to the cranky boomer, I would just say take care with the hurricane. As I'm doing this, the hurricane is headed toward the Gulf side of Florida. You no doubt have gone through this, so hopefully we will pray for your safety and the safety of the people in Florida with this another imminent hurricane. All right, the next one's from Julie. She says, I just watched your stop video. You sounded out of patience. We probably all are, but I just wanted to let you know how much I enjoy listening to your show. We all know how high the stakes are. You are helping all of your listeners every day. We need the calming influence you help to provide. It is so very clear that your love of your family and that your little granddaughter is the apple of your eye. Exactly right. Actually, as I'm recording this, I just got back from babysitting her. Fucking awesome. We watched Peppa Pig. We played a little hide and seek. We had dinner. I brought her some Skittles. Good day. Many of your listeners are also worried about their female relatives. So, yes, during this last stretch, you may need to do more hand holding. You've done a great job so far and realize some may need you more than others. God bless you and your family, Julie. Yeah, I understand that. I understand that. I sometimes get frustrated with people that get nervous because I'm just not nervous. I know how it's going to end up, and I have to be more sensitive to that. People look at things differently, they get concerned. The important thing I want to remind folks, though, it's okay to be concerned and worried. I mean, a lot of people are, but I get really bothered by the people that will come to me with these problems, and they're clearly just voiced from the Republican Party. You got to be careful what you listen to and what you believe, and don't believe everything. When people come to me with stories that I know are just categorically lies and bullshit from the Republican Party, it frustrates me when good people believe this shit because this is exactly what the Republicans want to do. They want you to believe it. They want to scare you. And we can't afford to let them do that. They've done it for decades. The shit stops now. We start to scare them by eradicating them from Congress and from the White House. All right. Next one comes from Charles. Mike, hello. I'm worried about one issue during this campaign. Trump's repeated attacks on immigration may really hurt Harris. What do you think? I don't agree with you. I mean, I think the previous email stated what the immigration stance is. Every time Donald Trump goes out and says, we're going to do mass deportation, he's losing votes. Every time Kamala Harris comes out and said, we had a bipartisan bill to protect the border, and the Republicans shot it down because Donald Trump shot it down, Donald Trump loses votes. I don't think the immigration issue is as big as it once was because the Democrats have done everything they could to try to get it done. The only reason there is no bill is because of Republicans. And I think the Democrats have done a good job of showing that. I think most people understand you're not going to get the base or the Trumplefucks to believe it, but you're never going to get them to believe anything. I don't think it's as big an issue as you think. I think that Kamala's going to win easily. And with any luck, it'll be a decisive, if not landslide win. We'll see. I'm just saying that based on what I see and how things are going. I'm no prophet here. I can't tell you exactly what's going on, but that's what I'm feeling now. All right. We will take a quick break and we will be right back. We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. This is an all email show because we've got so many to catch up on. I'm not going to fuck around. We're just going to get to the emails. Good morning, Boomer. I've watched your TikToks for just over a year and started listening to your podcast about a month ago. I'm a younger Gen Xer. I just turned 48 and probably identify more with millennials than older Gen Xers. I love your unabridged analysis of everything going on with the election and events going on around the country. I'm looking forward to a Harris-Walz administration. I think it will be a continued turning point in U.S. history. I agree that Biden will go down as one of the best presidents we've had, with the likes of FDR and Obama. I was a baby during Carter's administration and watched my grandfather lose his small business during the Reagan years. My father attempted to run a gas station garage in the early 80s, and that flopped due to Reaganomics. But I didn't realize until I studied up on Reaganomics how it destroyed the middle class and the small business. The Trump administration was eerily similar. The only difference, I think, was Pence was no Bush. I enjoy listening to your podcast each morning on my commute to work every day. It's a great way to start my day and get a positive and entertaining view on everything going on. Keep doing the work you do, and I will continue to listen and watch. It is reassuring that this country is going to head in the right direction. Thank you again, Boomer, and have an amazing day or night, depending on when you read this. Arnaldo from New York, Artie for short. Well, thank you, Artie. I appreciate that. I mean, in this era, there does need to be a calming voice. And if I am that for some people, I am grateful. I am honored to be that person. I didn't go into this expecting that would be the case. I just wanted to view my opinions. And if folks get something out of it, that's wonderful. So thank you, Artie. All right, the next one says, "Hey, Mike, I hope that MAGA and their news networks rave and applaud the job JD did at the debate. The more they praise JD, the more Trump will become unhinged because he did not receive the same kudos after his disastrous dog eating debate. This could actually force Trump into another debate with Kamala just to prove that he is a better debater than Vance. If so, I'm here for it. Take care, David." Yeah, I tend to agree with you. I don't know. We're getting a little late in the game here, and I don't think Donald Trump really wants any of that smoke again. I thought he might jump back into it. A lot of people said he guaranteed will jump back into it, and I suppose he could still, but things are getting too crazy. There's too many things for him to worry about, like with the briefing that was released. I don't know that he can get his mind around doing something like another debate. Now, if he did, that may be the kill shot of this whole thing because you certainly would do a poor job. He's currently flailing, he's currently panicking, and that's not a good way to head into a debate. I don't think he'll do the debate right now. I think Kamala should keep egging him on, but I think he's got so many other things to worry about. I don't know that he's even contemplating that right now. Hi, Boomer. So tonight I'm buying the first of 5 dinners for lost bets that Trump would be the nominee. Well, he sure as fuck is, and he's going to make it to November. Well, I'll agree with you. I said early on that I wasn't sure that Joe Biden or Donald Trump would be the nominee ultimately, and this was 2 years ago. But here he is. He's like a fucking cockroach. You keep stepping on him, and he keeps moving. I think he will probably make it to November, and at this point, I hope he does because he really needs an ass whooping. That really needs to be done, not only to set the tone with Donald Trump, but to get some closure for the Democrats in this country and to slap Republicans with a mandate with that says this motherfucker should be done. And I think they will be done with him after this. Every trial but one pushed, and every fucking sentence got deferred. Not one asset has been seized, and he's still in this thing. So, if we're 100% honest, there's been a whole lot of things that have pushed ever so slowly and surely. No question about that. I will say this, though. He did have to spot $275 million and put it into a bond. That had to come from somewhere. So, he is without a fair chunk of his money. And on exactly October 1st, for fuck's sake, we got two surprises: the port workers strike and escalated Middle East violence. With the orange fuck right square in the middle of both of those, with no accountability, hell, there won't even be coverage. Well, the good news, of course, is the port workers strike is over. Biden, Kamala Harris did their job. Um, Buttigieg did his job. We got that straightened out, so that's not a problem. We still have the Middle East issue. All right. Go ahead and call me a pussy ass bitch. Won't be the first time. Hell, my wife called me that just a bit ago, but I'll admit I'd share a tequila shot or a joint with Z Man right now because I'm feeling him. Now that now that being said, I firmly believe that Harris will win. It's not about how many people still support Trump. It's about the much larger number that loathe him. And my fondest hope is that you'll win the 11 million vote over and under bet by a mile. That'll be the most joyous cheeseburger I have ever bought. If you pass 14 million, double Biden's margin, we'll spring for bacon. Oh, best garage door Jeff. P.S. Just heard a funny comparison saying that J.D. Vance is the Eddie Haskell of candidates. That's funny. And that's only makes sense to people of our age, Jeff. Anybody that's 50 or under doesn't know who the fuck Eddie Haskell is. I'd just say Google that shit. All right. Next one comes from Andrea. Hi, Mike. First off, wanted to tell you that I really enjoy your content. You are the first podcast I go to when I get in my car. You have calmed my nerves at times because, like many, I am so sick of Trump and his bullshit. I sent you a photo in another email. What do you think? I get a lot of pictures. I have to go back and check it. I'm sorry. Take a look at the photo above Trump's head. Could this hurt Kamala? I'm terrified all over again. Thanks for all you do, Andrea. Don't worry about Kamala. Kamala is very strong. She's in a good position. Donald Trump can't get close to her. Everything Donald Trump does is a fucking failure. Everything he does is a failure. And everything Kamala is doing is winning. I've told people before, and I'm going to tell you, Andrea, don't get up in the morning looking for something to worry about. Things are going well. Just keep pushing forward. Just do the best you can. Don't worry about things you can't control. It's going to be fine. Hey, Boomer. Uh, Karen from North Carolina. I'm listening to you in Old Soul right now. You're all discussing the documents released from the superseding indictment. I think both Jack Smith and Judge Chutkin are heroes. The judge released the redacted information with no notice. I believe it was the element of surprise. I think you're right. I think Chutkin's getting tired of the bullshit. That way, the information is out for the public, as it should be, with no prior notice to Trump's camp. That way, they could not try any of their tricks to get in front of the information before the public saw it. Absolutely. And she wasn't required to do that either. I mean, she wasn't required to give Donald Trump and his team notice. She was put in this position because of Donald Trump. It came out at this late date because of Donald Trump. She's just doing her job. Even if the trial will take weeks or months, we have preliminary chilling information prior to November 5th. I know the info won't affect the maggots, um, but it will affect some middle of the road Republicans. I've downloaded the 165 pages and look forward to reading it. I believe there is nearly as large a document that could still be released, which is like an appendix of sorts. I think Donald Trump is finally going to be held to some accountability. Yeah, you're absolutely right. The fact that the information is out is damaging enough to Donald Trump. We can worry about the trial later on. And as I've said, I have no problem with the trials coming after the election because then the election is over. Donald Trump has no protection. He's no longer a candidate. There's no election coming up. The Republicans will have had enough of him and he will get buried. He won't be able to pull the same tricks he's pulled for the last 2 years. Karen had an addendum to her email. Hey, Mike, it's Karen from NC again. I forgot to mention in my last email, I believe having the Jack Smith document out there might make some wannabe election tamperers less likely to play some of their games this go around. Certainly makes the moves look more blatant and suspicious. That is another victory for the American people. Yeah, I think there is some deterrent factor in that. I think there's some deterrent factor in Tina Peters going to jail for 9 years. You know, they may want to save their Lord and Savior, but are they willing to risk going to prison? Like the fake electors. These people are standing there with their mouths agape, not knowing what hit them. They thought they were doing the right thing. They thought they were saving their Lord and Savior. But what do they get? They get to go to fucking jail for it. Yeah, I think you're right. It will cause some people to think twice about doing this sort of thing. Not the mega Trumplifucks, not the base, because they're just too stupid to know any better, but people that are closer to an average intelligence, they will have problems with it. All right, the next one is Old Soul. She says, Hey, Boomer, I have some information for listeners. In Oklahoma, the school superintendent, Ryan Waters, was granted $3 million in funds, tax dollars, to order Bibles for classrooms. Now he's approving an additional $3 million for a total of $6 million in tax dollars to put Bibles in Oklahoma classrooms. He wants a total of 55,000 Bibles, but they have to meet his strict requirements. I wonder what that might be. Number one, must be the King James Version. Number two, must contain the Old and New Testament. Number three, must include copies of the Pledge of Allegiance, must include the Declaration of Independence, must include the U.S. Constitution, must include the Bill of Rights. So much for separation of church and state. Number seven, must be bound in leather or leather-like material. Coincidentally, there is only one Bible in the world that meets all his requirements: the Donald J. Trump God Bless the USA Bible. I would ask you if you could believe this insanity, but I know you're not surprised by any of this. Oklahoma ranks 49th in education, and Waters has blocked funding for such things as free school lunch and federal funding to help with tragedies. This is important because if there is a school shooting, children won't be able to get the things such as a grief counselor. I guess in Waters' mind, children don't need professional help dealing with such a loss. They should just pray about losing teachers and classmates, then move on. Well, that's what Donald Trump said. Got to get over this shit. Excuse me for saying this, but this guy is a bona fide jackass. Now, she didn't write out jackass. She wrote Jack, and then 2 stars for ass, but I know what she meant. In my opinion, the board members are worse. They refused to get rid of him because he was endorsed by Trump. Your listeners should watch the Oklahoma school board meetings. The board members say things like, I'm concerned about this, I'm concerned about that, but they don't call him out for being a Christian nationalist nut job who has no place in public schools, and they refuse to vote him out. He puts libs of TikToks in charge of libraries. Pretty soon, the only books these children will be allowed to read is Dr. Seuss. Well, maybe not even that, because I wouldn't put past that to think that thing one and thing two were indoctrinating children. And don't get me started on the parents. I wish a school district would allow some crap like this to go on where my nieces and nephews or wild child attends. My name would go from old soul to hell on 2 legs. I would organize and protect the children in my community. Our children deserve a proper education. They deserve to be protected, and they deserve adults, in particular their parents, who are willing to make sure they have all of the above and much more. If anyone wants to know what it would be like growing up under Project 2025, look no farther than Oklahoma. Moving on, if any listeners want to understand Trump's mental decline, personality disorders, and the threat he is from a psychological perspective, they can watch 5-Minute News Podcast on YouTube. There are several deep dives with Anthony Davis and Dr. Bandy Lee, or they can watch the shorter episodes where a conference held by mental health professionals is broken down into segments. The first segment is entitled Experts Warn of Trump's Danger at Major Conference. It's 23 minutes and 56 seconds. And the second segment is right after that at 20 minutes and 1 second. If you're someone who can sit and watch or listen to deep dives, the smaller segments may be for you. The mental health professionals speaking out are at the top of their fields. Doctors who are responsible for determining the fitness of military generals and international leaders. I'm talking the best of the best who understand national security and are consultants to those in the highest levels of our government. These professionals got together and went to the media to sound the alarm, but were sidelined. As an alternative, they've come together to warn the public. Lastly, have you seen all the people leaving Trump rallies? 3 things are happening. 1, Trump used to start his rallies 2 to 2.5 hours late, but now he's starting the rallies 3 to 4 hours late, although he was almost 5 hours late last week. By the time the rally is started, they need to leave for personal reasons. Second, some only show up to get pics and video for social media. Once they have that, they leave. They aren't really there for Trump. They just want to say they went and had a good time. Third, people have taken Kamala up on her challenge to attend a Trump rally and are either leaving because it takes too long for Trump to show up, or things he's saying has so alarmed them that they can't stand it and leave. I was speaking with a friend about this yesterday. She thinks they are either leaving early on purpose to troll Trump or leave once their Venmo payment goes through. But I don't 100% agree with that. True, some stay until the Venmo clears, but I honestly think they're trying to stay and hear him hear him out, but can't stomach him or the buffoons in the crowd. I mean, can you imagine what it's like in an audience full of crazed MAGA? What do you think? Yeah, that would be a tough place to be. One more question. Did you see Trump holding a Wisconsin rally in front of union workers where he said he hated paying overtime so he'd bring other people in so he wouldn't have to? Yeah, just talking about that a little bit ago. The audience went pretty silent, and he said that, so I'm sure they caught on him admitting to cheating his workers out of overtime pay. But do you think they understood when he said he brought others in? He was admitting to hiring immigrants for cheap labor. Legacy media ran the story about him cheating workers out of overtime pay, but they left out the part with him hiring immigrants for cheap labor. I've been wondering if attendees caught that part. I've also wondered what goes on in their minds when he says he's turning away thousands and thousands of supporters because Biden and Kamala won't give him additional Secret Service. Yeah, that's clearly bullshit. They can clearly look around and see the high school gym they're in is only half full, and they know 60,000 people weren't outside in line with them. I wonder what goes on in their minds when he says that. It's weird. Thanks for what you do, old soul. And it's so often the case when Old Soul writes a letter like this. This is how we were first introduced to Old Soul. Um, it's hard to add anything to it. I learn a lot when I listen to Old Soul. All right. Next up, it was very upsetting to me that a lot of Trumpers are making videos about FEMA not being there to help the victims of Hurricane Helene. I saw a video that said some women overheard FEMA representatives saying they were too tied up at the border to help with Helene, which is not true. And people believe the nonsense. What the hell can we do? When the people in those states are being told lies that they can't verify, those people vote. They don't have the facts. I also bring up that people are lauding Elon Musk like he is a hero for providing Starlink. I thought FEMA or the federal government paid for that. Yes, they do. He ain't doing it for free. I guarantee you that. Oh, and by the way, Elon's a fucking immigrant. He's from South Africa. I'm tired of having to endure being the fact checker for my family. I'm thinking it's time to just dump the socials and just hope for the best. It's too stressful. Thank you for what you do, Amanda. Well, Amanda, don't abandon it. You got to keep the fight up for now. The only thing we can do, I've told you before, don't worry about those things you can't control. But what we can do is keep talking, keep it in the narrative, keep voicing the truth. That's really the best thing we can do. And I think a lot of people are grasping it. The things Donald Trump and the Trump-lefucks are saying are so outrageous. Not even a former voter of Donald Trump, if he has or she has an average mental capacity, can buy the shit. They see the bullshit. And we're seeing Republicans walking away from Donald Trump already. They will walk away in mass after November 5th and he gets his ass kicked. All right. Next one says, "Hi, Mike. I only write when I'm about to explode. I just want to yell fuck 1,000 times. Every time I hear the orange stain can't go any lower, he accepts a Purple Heart from a poor, disillusioned supporter. At this point in time, after all he has done and all we know, there are still so many Americans looking at him as a hero. From my point of view, I believe him to be one of the worst humans ever born. Yet they hold him up with such adoration. Make it make sense. Thanks for all you do. Remember, dinner is on me if you ever get to Boston. Thanks, Gina." Well, I'll probably take that up on you. Chances are I will go to Boston at some time in the not so distant future. Yeah, it's really hard to hear the bullshit and have people believe it. It's really tiring. I get that. Um, we're at a point right now, all we can do is do what we can do and keep pushing forward. And in November, vote and get Donald Trump's ass kicked. There will be people who still support him and still fight for him. And we're not going to be able to change those people's minds. They're going to be who they're going to be. We just have to reconcile the fact that there are a faction of people in this country that are just fucking stupid, just cult members. And there's not much we can do to fight against them or change their minds or help them in any way. So let them die on the vine with Donald Trump after November 5th. All right. Next one says, watching Trump's rally in Butler tonight, I just got to say, what the actual fuck is he talking about? Round and round the drain he goes. Come on, election. Rich of American Canyon. Yeah, I heard bits and pieces of it. This guy's truly losing it. I mean, he can't keep a thought straight. And he brings Elon Musk to this thing. You know, he goes back to Butler because that's where the assassination attempt was. And he thinks this is a good promo to get him attention. Um, it's funny, they don't talk about that assassination attempt much, and you'd have to wonder why. I think there's more to it that we don't know. We've never seen a lot of information coming from that. I think after the election, when it does finally come out, people are going to be fucking appalled. All right. Hi, Boomer. Those were a good couple of guest shows. Dan's idea of Liz Cheney as Attorney General is delicious, and it would be nice to have an arch conservative carry out those post election prosecutions, not to mention the spawn of Satan. And only on an Ed show will you hear a sentence like, of course, we all know what happened with the tariffs of 1890. No, Ed, actually, I fucking don't. And I'm with you. I didn't know either. Ed is the man. Mainstream news is so goddamn weak. Now my only consumption at this point is AOL. Yes, I am on AOL, and apparently that makes me an obsolete, idiotic boomer. But in any event, when you go for your emails, you see the snippets AOL is picking out as headlines. Now, we just published a document that, in a stunning detail and clarity, describes a wide ranging, multi stage, many player coup attempt. It's not hyperbole. That is 10 times the magnitude of Watergate, and it's barely a blip. By the way, has anyone published a key that attempts to identify the code of the unnamed participants? Instead, I'm seeing shit like, here's how Trump wants to eliminate income tax. Jesus fucking Christ. All right, let's see what the fuck can happen next. Best garage door Jeff. P.S. I'm exactly with you on pizza, pepperoni and sausage and mushrooms. If I'm feeling wild, add onions and black olives. Absolutely. Keep it simple, stupid. Keep that shit normal. I don't like the fancy shit on pizza. We got a lot of shit going on. And as I said, I'm recording this on Saturday. It's going to air early Monday morning through Monday. Now, as I understand, Eric is going to be on Monday night, which will take us into Tuesday. And by that time, we will hear what other shit show crazy shit is going on to start the week. These weeks are going to continually get worse. They're going to get crazier. He's going to do stupider stuff. And none of this is going to help him. Just because he says something doesn't mean it's going to work for him. I think people are mistaken by that. They think that because he said it, that this is bad news for Kamala. Everything Donald Trump says and does is bad news for him. More and more relatively reasonable people are seeing just how crazy he is. All the things we saw years ago are now becoming apparent, are now being brought to the surface. And even the people who tried to avoid it, tried to deny it, are starting to see it. And even they can't stomach it. We know that Republicans by the droves are walking away from Donald Trump, politicians and people, organizations. They're all walking away from him. And it's important to understand why I say this is going to be a big win for Kamala. No Republican can win the presidential election unless they have a unified party. Donald Trump is the furthest thing from unifying this party. A large percentage of this party has had enough of Donald Trump, so much so that they're willing to vote for a Democrat just to save democracy. That doesn't mean that we're going to turn the Trump-a-fucks or the MAGA-fucks. We're not going to. So don't worry about it. Just don't fucking worry about it. It's going to be fine. Everything is lining up to be a bad day for Donald Trump on November 5th and a good day for Kamala Harris. We've struggled through this for 8-9 years. the tide always turns. If you look back in history, and I'm 64, so I've seen a good part of the last 64 years in history. We've had some really bad, rough times, but it always turns, and it always turns out for the better. We've struggled enough at this point, and it will be better. Trust me on this. It's going to be fucking better. I have no, I have a lot of people coming to me worried about this, and I have no question in my mind how it's going to end up. And I'm anxious for that to happen because I'm going to be doling out a lot of I told you so's, not to you folks, but to the media, to other politicians, to other creators on TikTok. Um, a lot of people just want to struggle. They want to be scared. They get up in the morning looking for something to worry about. It's not the time to do that. Now's the time to be strong, be tough, keep fighting, keep talking, to keep the narrative going our way, and it'll all be fine. We'll beat Donald Trump just the way he beat Hillary Clinton in 2016 by being louder and being right. Donald Trump wasn't right back then, but we are right and we're talking about the truth, and the truth will prevail. There's no question about it. It will prevail. So don't worry so much. We're going to stay on this thing. We're going to keep pounding on it until November 5th. And then after that, we'll keep pounding some more. We might be a little more relaxed. We might be looking at a brighter future, but at least this will be behind us. The last 2 years has been absolutely horrific. The shit we've had to listen to, the shit we've had to see, the way our government, the way our judicial system has worked has been appalling, and we got to make that change. But before we make that change, we got to vote in Kamala Harris, Democrats in the House and Democrats in the Senate. You do that, you will see some change. You don't do that, you're going to get more of the same. And I feel confident in the people of this country, the people who listen to this show, and just America in general. We're going to do the right thing. We've had a fucking enough. All right, we're going to wrap up the Rational Boomer podcast. I want to thank you for taking the time out of your day to listen. I hope you have a great day, and we will talk to you again tomorrow.